squeaking through this with me. So first of all, I do want to thank Chris for creating this space. I think it's really incredible. And for all of you for coming. I think it's, I don't know, just thinking back on tonight, I always get nervous, as I'll talk about in my speech, about being in social interactions, but as soon as I come here, every time it's like everyone's super comfortable and talking like they know each other really well. It's a really beautiful thing. So I'm Courtney. I'm a personal trainer here in Austin. And today I'm going to talk to you all about the biggest change that I made, which is anxiety, but more specifically how I've learned to manage and combat my anxiety without self-medicating. So, sorry, I need to learn how to talk close to this. So I mostly want to just open this as kind of a conversation about how society teaches us to deal with our anxiety. It's pretty baffling that having anxiety can be a natural thing for human beings, absolutely. But what's not natural at all is the environment that we're thrown into that essentially promotes anxiety and doesn't give us any tools at all to deal with it. So our environment generally doesn't care about our mental health, right? Our environment is 6th Street. Our environment is driving home from work on Airport Boulevard and seeing a billboard that literally reads, "Pour out your soul," with a new gin that's being promoted. There's just so much in our environment that is completely overwhelming and against us doing what's best for us and our stress and our anxiety. So first of all, I just want to go through, this is more for me because I'm clearly nervous, but I want to go through with y'all my favorite 2 ways to combat anxiety. So first, everybody can stand up. We're just going to do 3 really deep breaths. So in through your nose for 3 seconds, out through your mouth for 6, all together. So in through your nose and out for 6. And close your eyes or breathe audibly, whatever you want to do. So second one. And out. And then in one more time. And then out for 6. All right, and let's stay standing. I'm gonna not use the mic for this. We're just gonna do a quick stretch. So first, excuse my crop top, I wasn't thinking. All the way up to the ceiling, side to side. Really stretch. And all the way down, you can bend your knees, let your head hang, relax. And then all the way up. Now, wait. Side to side. And one more all the way down. All right, back up. And y'all can sit down. Thank you. All right, so if you're anything like me, you have probably experienced anxiety before, possibly many, many times in your life, and possibly in a pretty irrational manner. You know that it's not something that's real, but you can't help it. Anxiety is very common. That's something I didn't used to know. I thought that there was something really wrong with me. I didn't realize how many other people went through this all the time. Oh shoot, sorry. Okay, here we go. So there's actually 40 million American adults who struggle with anxiety disorders in the US, and many of them are not treated properly at all. So just to give you a visual, this is about 7 to 8% of us. And it's kind of a staggering number to think about. That would be, a few people in this room. And then along with that, while I was doing research, and since I'm sober, it's something that fascinates me. There's 15 million adults who also could be diagnosed with alcohol use disorder, many of which, again, are not being treated properly. I think that's kind of safe to assume that, like me, many, many people are out there self-medicating, or like I was. So just to go into my story a tiny bit, I'll never forget the first time that I officially decided to stop drinking. I was sitting on my bed in the midst of like a full-on panic attack, just wondering kind of how I had ended up there. So I had gone from like having a lot of fun with my friends on the weekends to drinking in excess every single night. And I was just like puzzled. Like I was like, how did this happen? You know, as I'm sure many people feel. And then in hindsight, I realized that it all started because of self-medicating. I was taught from a really young age, and I figured it out very fast, that anything that I had to face could just be numbed and forgotten about with alcohol. So this started with insecurities and social anxiety in high school and then in college. I used self-medication through the death of a best friend when I was 21, through my first heartache as an adult, my first adult relationship, just completely was like not dealing with this. Moved to Austin and then got laid off from my dream job at 25, same thing, like just didn't really have to face anything, right? Because alcohol is like the magic, never deal with anything drug. And then it progressed in my late 20s when I felt really discontented and confused about what I was doing with my life. Let me just say I had like a million reasons to stop drinking. I had intuition that has always been really, really strong in me, but I was able to just set that to the side. Denial can be a really powerful thing. I had like the dearest friends, and at the time a new boyfriend who were just overly concerned and expressing just they had no patience anymore, but that was easy to kind of ignore. I was also genuinely worried about my health and many other things. But through all of that, the only thing that really like rocked me to my core and made me make change was my anxiety. So it really was just like always there, calling all the shots, just kind of controlling my life. And in the depths of my drinking at its worst, I began to be crippled every single day by my racing heartbeat and my unrelenting self-doubt and my irrational worries about everything. And most of all, it really kept me from living the life that I knew that I deserved and that I wanted. It just kept me paralyzed. So I'd be lying if I said that I don't still have anxiety. Obviously, I'm like terrified right now. I was pretty scared today thinking about being up here, but then I realized that that's what this talk is about, is going forth and facing your fears. Because I've found that really the best way to get through anxiety is not to hide yourself and shelter yourself from your triggers, but it's to face these things head on and really deal with them. So over time I decided to kind of figure out what I was really afraid of, right? So like social anxiety has always been a huge thing for me, but anytime that I put myself out there and end up being social, it's like totally fine. People would never guess. You know, it's like all a story that I tell myself. So I really started to dig deep and try to stop covering things up and started to do the hard things. So it was literally like the tiniest things, like talking to strangers at the grocery store, or like whatever, just small steps. So the more I did this, the easier it gets, and I'm still doing it, and it's still getting easier. But the biggest lesson in sobriety that I've heard, and like biggest change that I've made, is that you cannot grow in avoidance. So I spent most of my 20s avoiding hard things at all costs, like literally just procrastinating this like huge big dream life that I had, just being like, man, it'll happen someday, like whatever, I don't need to think about it. What's ironic is I wanted it so bad, but I was just, you know. So basically like the best, I already talked about this a little bit, but finding ways to lessen the impact as it occurs, basically just by being super aware and understanding as anxiety is happening, like what I have at my disposal in order to help me. So I've experimented with a lot of things that are more tangible than just like self-awareness and understanding my triggers. I'd like to share those with y'all today, if that's okay. So some of the most valuable tools that I've found must be done often, consistently, and with grit. Like you can't think that you can do these things once and then just kind of solve everything. It really has to be like in your back pocket, pulling it out actively, being very aware that those are at your fingertips. So the first thing is intentional movement. I'm gonna try to make a joke, but I'm not very funny. My boyfriend was like, put a joke in there. And this part's sort of true. So I did used to work out for vanity. I'm just gonna say it's his joke. It's his joke. I, like all of you, are shallow, surface level, and vain. But really, I found out that there's really, oh, this is his joke too. It's my handwriting, don't worry. He wanted me to plug Hansel is so hot right now by saying that, like, anyway, there's more to life than being good looking. Vanity doesn't really matter. He's gonna kill me. Okay, so many months of journaling and kind of keeping track of, like, so now I'm a personal trainer, right? So one of the things that I teach is that, I guess it is that vanity is not the most important thing, but what I teach is that your motivation is not gonna come from abs that are like 2 years away. Like, I'm sorry, but typically people don't make those connections very often. Like, if you're gonna decide whether you're working out today and your motivation is really far off, it's just not gonna happen. So you have to find intrinsic motivation. You have to find the thing that really matters to you in the moment. And I found that if I don't work out for 2 or more days, my anxiety and my depression is just like out of control. Like, I kept a journal for months and I found this pattern where it was like, whoa, if you don't move your body, you go crazy. Like, that's just how I am. So I started making a rule for myself that all I needed to do was 15 to 20 minutes. Like, you don't have to go super hard. I'm a runner, but I don't have to run like 10 miles every time I work out. And this has like completely changed my life because it's become almost effortless to make time for 20 minutes when all I have to do is remind myself of how bad I'll feel if I don't. So number 2 is a balanced nutrition, balanced diet. My philosophy can be a little hard to understand, but it's really easy to explain. That only makes sense if you understand diet culture. So the 4 rules that I give myself are no shame, no guilt, no rewards, and no punishment, because food is essentially energy. Obviously, you want to make all of your decisions rooted in kindness, and kindness sometimes means a cheeseburger, sometimes it means ice cream, sometimes it means these things that we enjoy, but typically the kindest thing for yourself is the healthiest decision. So I just always try to lead with kindness for myself when I'm making decisions about food. And I found that food is just as important for my mental health as it is for my physical health. It's really kind of underrated. I know people are kind of catching on, but it's been like a mind-blowing experience to see the difference between when I nurture myself and when I don't. So number 3 is awareness. So this can come down to quite a few things. Obviously, I did that breathing in the beginning. Awareness of breath and being super aware of illogical thought are both major tools with anxiety. Because if you can stop and slow down, as you said, and just take deep breaths and think about what's going on, it can like completely change your perspective. And then this sounds silly, but a lot of times with anxiety, I'll literally just have like a logical conversation with myself, like worried about a friend being mad at me, and I'm like, have they ever been mad at me the way that you're imagining that they'd be mad at you? Nope. And I'm like, has anyone ever been mad at you the way that you're imagining? No, they have not. And I'm like, okay, move on. So it's like, it's a nice tool. It sounds silly, but it actually works really well. And then next with awareness is just being kind to myself, which I talked about already. I try really hard to never beat myself up for anything, just kind of move on. Learn from it, obviously, but move on. And then lastly is do what's best for me. So I've learned to always put myself first. So you kind of hear do you all the time. People say that a lot. The way that I like to interpret that is don't make plans centered around activities that you don't enjoy or with people that you barely like. Because when I was drinking all the time, that's literally all I did. And it was very confusing to like come out of that and be like, okay, what do I like to do? I don't even know. So figuring that out has been an amazing journey. But by having boundaries and saying no, you just show up better for the people you love, like hands down. And then my last little tangible tool is making sure that I slow down. Sleep is, in my opinion, vastly underrated. It's possibly the most important thing you can do for your health. I used to kind of force myself into submission by drinking because I felt guilty for taking rest, which is so funny. So I would just like get super hammered, be hungover for 3 days, and be like, well, I'm hungover, it's fine. But it's like, it was because I felt guilty doing that, like taking care of myself, which is crazy. But now I just really listen to myself, and when I need rest, I really enjoy it. And I've also found that I work for myself now, and if it's like midday and I'm exhausted and I have 20 minutes to take a nap, I wake up and I'm focused and refreshed, and it's like way more productive to just take those 20 minutes and rest than to be a zombie through the rest of my day. So it kind of like you buy back time by taking care of yourself. I also listen to my circadian rhythm, which this is kind of woo-woo, but whatever. I don't set an alarm to wake up. I set like an emergency alarm, but I've trained myself to wake up slowly and like naturally, which is, I recommend it if you can make that happen. It's really amazing. And last thing about sleep, I feel very passionately about sleep, so I'm going to talk to you guys about sleep a little bit more. But if you don't get 7 to 8 hours, I know some people say that 6 is enough. It's not. It's like less than 1% of the population actually can function on that much sleep. Maybe that's you. But your physical and mental performance actually decreases 30 to 40% on less than 7 hours. So taking that extra hour to just take care of yourself can set up your whole productivity, everything in your day. It also affects your hunger hormones. So like if you've ever been tired and you recall being like donuts, pizza, cupcakes, like all this, it's literally because your body's super smart and it wants energy as fast as possible. And so it's like, get me the most simple carbohydrates you can possibly get in your face. Like I often, when I'm super tired, will just end up eating a whole pizza from Via 313 in my bed by myself, watching Pretty Little Liars. So that's my life. But anyway, the main problem with this is that not getting enough rest and not eating the right foods and not moving your body completely affects anxiety and stress. And we're taught in our society to just like ignore all these things and not make time for them. So like you said, schedule this shit in, like make it a priority, and it will help your anxiety and other parts of your life. Just a little bit about community. I've been sober on and off for 3 years, and I've been consecutively sober for over 14 months-ish. And the first, I don't even know how long, but the first long part of it was very lonely because I knew that I couldn't hang out with the people I was hanging out with, but I didn't know how to make any new friends, and I was terrified. And then probably about a year ago or so, I started just making it a priority to start meeting new people. And there's a few of you here tonight that are amazing. Thank you for coming. And it just changed my life, like community with people who aren't even necessarily sober, but just understand the value in spending your time without self-medicating and without like forgetting things, and just being really present has literally changed my life. Being around a community that lifts you up, doesn't allow you to tear yourself down. It's really life-changing. So I've created something for all of y'all. A little fun anxiety tool card that you can take home with you. My friend Mary O'Shep, this is my boyfriend's joke again, the ex-snowboarding champion. She was a sponsored snowboarder.
Don't get it if they don't know you.
I know, he's funny. I'm like not funny at all, so that's why he was like, I gotta help you. I'm only funny on accident, which anyway, that's another time. Get to know me, you'll understand. So she's gonna hand those out for y'all, and it's kind of cool. It has like my suggestions of anxiety, and then you can fill out the back yourself, not right now obviously, but you can keep it in your purse or on your mirror or throw it away when you get home, whatever, but it's there if you need it. I just like to remind people that you do have tools at your fingertips to help quiet a sometimes angry world, manage your stress and anxiety, and you don't have to turn toward unhealthy coping mechanisms. Thank you.